Greetings! Welcome to the first Punctibyte for this fall of 2012 and for the week of September the 3rd. I'm totally stoked to tell you that I'm here in Leadville visiting for a ski camp, and we've been going for some awesome runs, and today we did a roller ski. Tomorrow I think we'll plan a bike, or we've let the kids choose their own adventure. So for these Punctibytes, generally we structure them pretty much the same way each time. If there's something in the news or just something cool that I want to relate to you, or maybe I want to talk a little bit about teaching, pedagogy, techniques to use for lecturing, I'll kick things off with that to begin with. And then we usually move from there into the schedule for that week. And once we've covered the schedule, then we can take a minute to just go over some of the highlights of the TA guidelines. So I bet some of you have heard that Yosemite is quite a buzz because there have been 6 confirmed cases of hantavirus in the small guest lodges that are used throughout the summer. So they've sent out warnings to people that have stayed there from June 10th to August 23rd, and they're getting thousands and thousands of phone calls, as you might suspect, of those who are concerned about the hantavirus. So with that in mind, let's get kicked off for what we'll be doing in lab this week, and looking first at what we'll cover lab 1 and lab 2. And this is your week of no lecture. So at this point, you're just going to be getting used to all that's going on and giving me a chance to lecture for this first week. But there will be some things that you're going to need to be ready to do. And we will be starting the bacteriological unknown identifications just using microscopy in the second lab. So on Thursday, we'll be doing that. Now, Marielle and Callie, this is your week for open lab. So remember to have somebody come take your place if it's not a time that you're able to do it. And of course, on the Thursday the 6th is the last day to drop. And I've already had some students come and ask me about last day to drop. So if you can go ahead and make a reminder in your lab sections, it wouldn't be a bad idea, just so that they're aware that if they're thinking the class might not be the right one for them, this is the time that they're going to want to absolutely drop the class and make that decision. So let's go ahead and look at the TA guidelines for both labs 1 and 2, starting with lab 1. And I think most of the initial stuff, and actually I should say for those of you who are new, up at the top of each one of the TA guidelines, right at the very beginning, I usually try to highlight some of the things that you're going to need to do even before the lab starts that day. So for this particular lab, there's not a lot going on. We would want to check to make sure that the microscopes are unlocked, and I'll generally have done that. Also, double check your media and reagents, make sure that there's enough for your class, make sure that they have everything that they need to do the procedure. And I generally find that what works best for that is to do a dry run of the procedure yourself, and that way you know that they have what they need. For this lab, we will be covering ubiquity of microorganisms, which means that you will be helping your students to swab a plate, to cough on a plate, and to inoculate a tube with their thumb or their hand. They're not going to know very well how to handle these things at this point. They won't even know what agar feels like. So because I will be doing all the lecturing, I'm going to ask your help in going around and helping them get the procedures done, help them find the bucket to put their plates in and their tubes in. And we'll want to have that bucket ready at the beginning of the hour. So we did not label those buckets, so you're going to want to label your bucket before class begins, have a rack in the bucket ready for the TSB tubes, and have it on the side bench ready for the students to put their plates and their tubes into it. One of the TAs can also stand by that bucket and help them learn that they'll invert their plates when they put it into the bucket. Now, because I will be doing all of the lecturing, I may be needing to take a drink of water or a quick breather in between these parts of the lecture. So if you can be ready to help them with the actual procedures, that really, really helps me out a lot. Now, you will find that for some students, putting their thumb over the top of a tube will not work, and it'll spill media everywhere. And so you can go around and help them put their hand over it. Also remind them that there is no seal on those tube lids, so it's good for them to get the feel that they can't shake those tubes or turn them sideways because they will spill. In terms of the microscopy section of this, I'll really take my time going through and teaching the microscope, but I would love it if you would also rotate around the room and help them with anything that seems to be confusing. Be ready to answer questions while I'm showing them the concepts of the microscope. Also, once we have gotten to the part where they're looking at the pond water, we've ordered pond water with lots of good things in it, make sure to go around and help them to find something. I'd like it if every student could find something, and if you do have a student that finds something, have them share it with their neighbors so that everybody gets a chance to look at it. The section of the guideline that I'm scanning through right now is what we talked about in the first meeting, where there's a lot of things that repeatedly go wrong when students are using microscopes, and these hints will help you to deal with those things when they do go wrong. So give that a look-see and read through it just a little bit. I have a section at the very end of this that shows you some of the types of proteins that the students might see. Spirogyra is a common one. Volvox, these are types of algae, or they're green algae, chlorophyta. We'll see a lot of diatoms throughout the semester, and you may even see some things like euglena and amoeba. So there's a variety of things found in the samples that we're working with, and everybody should be able to find something. Now for lab number 2, we're going to jump into the staining section. So we will be using all of our bright stains, and students may want to wear gloves if they don't want to have stains on their hands. We're going to begin with the direct and negative stains, and I'll try to remember to draw the pictures of that on the board. As James will remind us, I was trying to do it last Friday during Open Lab, and then realized that that was lab 2, not lab 1. So I guess I'll take being ahead rather than being behind. So we'll do the negative and the direct stain. Remember that with the negative stain, they'll have 2 smears on one slide. They will be resuspending the bacterial cells in Congo red rather than in water. So try to remind them that they don't need loopfuls of water on their negative stain. But on their direct stain, they will be using that. Now, I would like for you guys to be ready to demonstrate how to do a smear preparation and also how to use the oil immersion lens. That way you can give me a little break after the lecture in showing some of that, and we can talk at the beginning of the hour to determine exactly how we want to go about doing those demos. But if you can be prepared to show the students how to use the oil immersion lens and also to show them how to make a smear preparation, that would be fantabulous. Now, do bear in mind that I know that many of you are old hats at making a smear preparation, and you could do it in your sleep. You know, you're the shiz-niz when it comes to smear preparations. But please still read through this guideline, because there might be areas where maybe you do something slightly differently, and if you do, you want to explain why you do it differently and how that says one thing in the lab manual that maybe you're doing slightly differently. It's good to teach them that things are not absolute, but it's also important to pay attention to what they're reading in their manual and try to talk about how, if yours does differ, you know, that there's a, you know, that there is more than one way to go about things. Okay, I think that takes us through lab 2, and I think we should be all ready for the week. Oh, I should mention on the morphological unknowns that you may want to have a list of unknowns for your students, so you may want to have that to put out on the day that we start the unknowns, not because we need to know their numbers necessarily, absolutely, but it does help actually, but also because they forget, and it's really important that throughout the unknown process, they do use the same unknown. So if they get unknown 140, which is Pseudomonas, they need to be able to use that unknown every single time. They'll get really confused if they have a rod the first time and then they have a coccus the second time and they're going, oh my God, what's going wrong? And then they realize that they use this different unknowns each time. Okay, I feel like I was just, you know, running away with that, but I hopefully got to everything, and I hope you are having a fantastic weekend, and I can't wait to see you all on Tuesday.